think that's the foundation of all the work I lead. It's empowerment from within, knowing that we are worthy, knowing that we have value, knowing that we matter. And that's what I bring into the corporate spaces I work with. Regulation isn't just about being calm 100% of the time. It's actually about being able to move with things that can be activating and triggering and intense at moments, stress, anxiety, and move with that a little bit more seamlessly.
Today we are exploring the intersection of Indigenous empowerment, trauma-informed leadership, and how to build a business that breaks generational cycles.
My encouragement is to a greater level of faith than fear, because faith over fear will always win. And you truly, truly have everything you need within you.
Hi, this is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine, a platform dedicated to spotlighting the voices, strategies, and journeys of women leaders and entrepreneurs who are shaping Canada's business and policy landscape. Today, we are exploring the intersection of Indigenous empowerment, trauma-informed leadership, and how to build a business that breaks generational cycles. In 2026, real success isn't just about the bottom line. It's about creating environments where people can bring their full identities to work and thrive. Joining us is Rachael Hunt, a member of the Chippewas of Nawash First Nation and the founder and CEO of Freedom School Co., a master practitioner in multiple healing modalities and the creator of the Freedom Method. Rachael is helping organizations and Indigenous leaders reclaim their power, build capacity, and foster workplaces where authentic success is the standard. So, before further ado, let's welcome this special guest. Rachael, welcome to the podcast. Such an honor to have you with us.
Thank you so much. The honor and pleasure is all mine.
Now, Rachael, your personal journey of reconnection is central to the work you do, right? So, for all the listeners, let's start the conversation by addressing what does the homecoming journey mean today, and how does it shape the work at Freedom School Co.?
Yeah, I think my personal reconnection journey to my roots as an Anishinaabe, an Indigenous woman, is central, is everything to the work that I now lead and the evolution of Freedom School. I started the business in 2019, and in 2022, living in Tulum, Mexico, I received the call to come home and to reconnect to my roots. And it had been 30 years of disconnection. And so I listened for the first time and began, visiting my home community, reconnecting to relatives, decolonizing my mind and my business, learning our original ways. And that began to shape who I was as a person and began to shift and pivot the way that I led my business. And it inspired me, encouraged me even to bring this work, this trauma-informed and science-backed work to other Indigenous women, but also to Indigenous folks as a whole. So being called home, I call it the homecoming journey, was the catalyst to everything I do and the Freedom Method and all of it. So without that moment in Tulum, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. Definitely, reconnecting and understanding your roots is the essential first step to building a future that is truly the one that you own. Now, Rachael, let's explore how empowering and retaining Indigenous talent is reshaping how our corporate culture works. So, what barriers, prevent organizations from moving from inclusion to true Indigenous empowerment?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's so interesting. The way I stumbled into this work was through conversations with folks working in Indigenous relations, whether they were Indigenous or not, but describing these pain points or these challenges that Indigenous employees were facing. And they were wanting to find solutions to attract, retain, and to empower these employees. And so thus the Indigenous Employee Empowerment Program came to be. But what I'm seeing is that it's not about more programming or more tools or more education, it's not about anything external. It's about the internal. How are these employees feeling like they're seen, heard, understood, and valued? Is there a way that we can break these barriers of indigenizing them to an extent where they feel like they're being kind of like segregated? And let's just see them as people, see them for who they are, and also acknowledge that they have some unique barriers that they're facing, but to pull down those barriers and provide them with resources that are going to support them from within, not just
theoretically on the paper.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really, and I think that's the foundation of all the work I lead. It's empowerment from within, knowing that we are worthy, knowing that we have value, knowing that we matter. And that's what I bring into the corporate spaces I work with.
That's beautifully articulated, Rachel. True empowerment definitely requires more than just policy. It requires a fundamental shift in the workplace culture, and that can only happen from one's own self. Now, let's discuss how the freedom method helps leaders build internal capacity and personal growth. Rachel, why are internal capacity building and nervous system regulation essential for leadership? Firstly, please go ahead and explain that bit.
Yeah. So again, with my own personal journey of reconnecting to my roots, but also in healing generational traumas and childhood traumas, I found myself studying the nervous system, studying the subconscious mind, and understanding that in order for us to be authentic to ourselves and to reach our potential, we need to feel safe. And a lot of us are not actually feeling safe to take up space, to be seen, to go for our big goals and dreams and visions. And often we're just trying to get by. We're not getting ahead. So I started to look at leadership from this trauma-informed lens of, if we, again, bring this internally, not a leadership development program, not the more theory, not, and I'm not saying that's not important and valuable, but there also needs to be a conversation around how is that individual leading themselves? Because the leadership that I talk about is not about a role or a title. It's what we carry within. And I think that means taking responsibility for our trauma and the way we treat others and the way that we behave, and adopting an approach to leadership that is compassionate and caring. And regulation isn't just about being calm 100% of the time. It's actually about being able to move with things that can be activating and triggering and intense at moments, stress, overwhelm, anxiety, and move with that a little bit more seamlessly. And when we're able to do that on an individual level, it creates this powerful ripple effect where if I'm calm and regulated, you're naturally going to sync with my energy. Even if you're coming here frazzled, you've had meetings, you've had 100 things on your to-do list. And then if I come here and I'm also matching that energy,
the aura is going to come.
Totally. And so we want to inspire that within leaders, whether you're a manager, whether you're a director, whether you're a team lead, or whether you're an employee on that team, because collectively that co-regulation can either create more harm or it can be really helpful and healing for everyone. So that's what we're moving towards, is finding that emotional and self-regulation within so we can lead more powerfully.
That's a beautifully well-balanced answer, and such a timely thing to say as well, because a lot of our listeners right now feel this on a constant basis, right? So everyone listening, what are the 3 steps that you'd recommend to the leaders specifically to be able to follow this as well?
Oof. That's a great question. And yeah, I'll try to simplify it. I think number 1 is awareness. I think we need to take stock of like where we're presently at and being radically honest with ourselves. And it's not always comfortable. It's not always easy. I've had to do this many times in my journey and it's humbling, but it's when we're able to meet ourselves honestly where we're at that we can then begin to create change.
Difficult conversation.
Definitely. And I think that is what allows us to take responsibility for perhaps the way we've behaved in the past, or the way that we've shown up that we may not be the happiest or proudest of, but we're human. And I think if we can have awareness with compassion, then it allows us to move forward. And then I think it's adding, and I know this you said for 3, but it's like awareness. And then I think it's meeting yourself where you're at. So there's so many tools.
Yeah.
Like there's so much out there. And it in and of itself can be so overwhelming to be like, where do I start? Oh my God, I have to have a 20-step, morning routine or evening routine. No, meet yourself where you're at. Keep it simple. That is what is going to allow you to stay as committed and consistent as you want to be and need to be to create new neural pathways and create change. And then the third would then be consistency. So 1, awareness. 2, meet yourself where you're at. Be honest with also what your capacity is. If it's like a simple breath practice that grounds you, or a simple, walk around the block, or writing a page or 2 in your journal, start there. And then from there you can build a consistent practice. So I think for busy leaders, like keep it really simple. We can go more complex, but that isn't
the solution.
And I think, adding more at first is just going to be more overwhelming.
I think that is such a practical, advice. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You.
To the leaders and change makers watching, if you are trying to change your organization without first doing the work to regulate your own nervous system and heal your own limiting beliefs, you are building on sand. True leadership is an inside-out job. Break the cycles that hold you back. Build your internal capacity and watch how quickly your team and your community rises with you. You cannot lead others into freedom if you haven't cultivated it within yourself. Think about it. All right, it's time for a quick break right here, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll explore how breaking limited cycles creates real opportunity for Indigenous entrepreneurs. Stay tuned.
At Purolator, we understand the importance of every delivery, whether it's a document, a special gift, a critical healthcare shipment, or an entire warehouse worth of inventory. Throughout our more than 60-year history, we've honed our expertise to build out a powerful portfolio of logistics services that enable us to deliver on every promise. Whether shipping across town or around the globe, from small and medium-sized businesses to industrial, technology, retail, and healthcare sectors, Purolator serves a diverse array of customers. So no matter what, where, or when you're shipping, Purolator's expertise, experience, and innovative solutions enable us to deliver on your promises.
Welcome back to the She and Success podcast. Let's dive into how entrepreneurs can build success while staying rooted in culture and purpose. Now, let's look at how breaking, limiting cycles support Indigenous women and entrepreneurs in building prosperity. Rachel, how can Indigenous entrepreneurs balance business growth with this, sort of cultural responsibility that they have on shoulders?
Yeah, I think what I've noticed, and I don't have all the answers, there are so many incredible Indigenous entrepreneurs and leaders that I look up to and that I've learned a lot from just in conversation, through following, through reading books. And I think it's not separating the two. I think that's something I grappled with when I began reconnecting was I'm caught between two worlds and I felt really divided. Yeah. But what I think has helped me and what I think could be helpful for others listening is to not separate the two, that actually our businesses as Indigenous entrepreneurs, as Indigenous women are cultural. And I think that when we bring our cultural values, so for me, we have the 7 sacred teachings in my Anishinaabe culture. And so if I live in alignment and in integrity with those as best as I can in life and in business, then I feel I am honoring that cultural responsibility and, not being extractive and not being exploitative or manipulative. And I think we can get kind of stuck in, I want to succeed and thrive and do well, but I don't want to be capitalistic and I don't want to do it in a way that could hurt others. And I think naturally, if you're thinking that way, you're probably not going to be creating harm. Yeah. But that's another layer that we as Indigenous entrepreneurs think about. And I think it's so beautiful. I think there's a lot we can learn from an Indigenous entrepreneur with that perspective. So, it's not separating the two. And I think just doing our best to honor whatever your cultural values are. I'm Indigenous or Anishinaabe, but other cultures have different values that they live by. And I weave that into the work I do. I think naturally, like we're breaking cycles all the time. So when we think about cycle breaking, it can have this big connotation attached to it. Like, oh my God, like it has to be so heavy. It has to be so intense. And I think many of us are breaking cycles by starting businesses, by, leading ourselves differently, by showing up differently. Because for many of our ancestors, it wasn't safe to do so. We didn't have the opportunity to speak up and speak out. We didn't have the opportunity to build businesses that aligned with our cultural values, right? We had to assimilate. And a lot of the work I am seeing done in the Indigenous spaces is a reclamation of that. And that is breaking cycles by nature. So,
of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm so, personally happy and proud of, what you've done and where you've come. An Indigenous entrepreneur is basically practicing what he's preaching as well. And I think that is commendable. Now, also balancing business prosperity with cultural integrity is a powerful tool for all the modern entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this as well. Now, finally, let's examine how the Freedom Method certification is expanding, this work through a new cohort. So firstly, for all the listeners, what is this Freedom Method certification? Please educate me and our listeners about that. And who is this certification ideally for? Like, who is the end user and what impact is expected out of it? So tell me all about it.
Yeah, great question and happy to share. So because of my personal healing journey, definitely over a decade, but I would say in the last 7 years, I've really wanted to become a master at different tools and techniques, not only for my personal healing journey, but that I could give back. And so because of that, I've become a master practitioner in a number of different modalities, as you mentioned at the beginning. Yeah. And I found a couple years ago, again, all of it coming from that reconnection journey, that there was an opportunity to create greater accessibility. That's what I'll say. Greater accessibility to these tools for Indigenous women. Mm-hmm. So the tools that I have are science-backed, trauma-informed. Everything from rewiring our subconscious mind to our nervous system to then rewiring, reprogramming our energy so that we can tap into greater potential, greater power, and become aligned with our authentic selves. And from that, women are stepping into their purpose in a bigger way and feeling like safe and confident and comfortable to do that, which is so important. And within the foundation of the program is we're breaking cycles. We are releasing traumas that are holding us back. We are reprogramming limiting beliefs and negative emotions that are keeping us small and stuck and seemingly safe. And so the Freedom Method is a compilation of all of these transformational tools that I have had firsthand lived experiences with that I'm now getting to put into the hands of other Indigenous women, because I recognize as an individual woman, I can only reach so far and wide. But what happens when I get these tools into other women? They get to reach their networks, their communities, their families, themselves, first and foremost. But that ripple effect goes far further and wider. And I'm seeing that firsthand as I begin to certify these incredibly ambitious, driven Indigenous women who have careers already, but are looking for ways to be of greater service. And it's honestly an honor. Like I am still in shock that I get to teach these women these tools and that they're then creating their own methods from this, because it's not about copying and pasting what I do. It's about having your unique imprint and blueprint around it. So it is predominantly for Indigenous women. Allies are welcome to join the program, but it's taught through an Indigenous lens. And that's a really, really important piece of the program. So if you align with that and you're non-Indigenous, you're absolutely welcome. But the women enrolling are mostly Indigenous, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful group.
Again, I'm so thankful, that you shared that with our listeners. Scaling this methodology is a vital step towards creating a lasting and, positive impact in the country. And also for all the listeners who want to know more about the certification,
Yeah.
where can they go and find more information?
Yeah, so we're going to be enrolling for our spring 2026 cohort in the next couple of weeks. But if you're listening to this after that, we run cohorts 3 times a year. But freedomschool.co, that's my website. You'll find all the information there. You're welcome to find me on Instagram as well. I'm sure you'll link all those details. Yes. LinkedIn. And yeah, just poke around. If you have questions, you can reach out to me directly. I love responding and answering questions. And even if the certification's not aligning with you, I'm just, welcome you into the community.
That sounds amazing. So all the links will be in the description below. Don't forget to check that out. I'm loving this conversation, Rachel, and definitely we love for you to be back. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you'd want our listeners to, stay with, specifically around breaking cycles or, getting beyond limitations that we often create for our own selves in our mind. So what is that one life-changing advice?
Ooh, that's a great question. Just one piece of advice. Well, given that I think this is She in Success, so it's mostly women who will be listening, I think it's really important for us as women to not take the narratives, especially those that are negative and limiting in nature, to heart. These narratives have been passed down for generations. There has been so much sold to us as women about our capability and what's possible for us. And most of it's not true. And so my encouragement is to build a greater level of faith than fear, because faith over fear will always win. And you are capable. It is possible, and you truly have everything you need within you. And I encourage you to just start. Wherever you're at, just start. It might feel really far-reaching. It might feel really out of touch, but one step, one foot in front of the other, and I promise you, you'll amaze yourself at how far you can get.
Beautiful. That was very reassuring. That is a great reminder that, breaking cycles start with the courage to start something new. Mm-hmm. That was Rachael Hunt, you guys. Thank you so much for being here and doing this with us.
Miigwech for having me.
All right, that was Rachael Hunt from Freedom School Co., a vital look at why true leadership begins with healing and how we can all work to break limiting cycles to build a better future. Thank you so much for tuning in to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit sheandsuccess.ca for more such resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for their ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. Keep thriving. Kripa Anand signing off.